How to take first step for talking. Leo felt a knot in his stomach whenever he thought about speaking English. The sheer idea of forming coherent sentences, let alone engaging in a conversation, seemed an insurmountable Everest. He knew the words, read them, understood grammar rules, yet the initial how to take first step for talking always eluded him. His dreams of global connection remained just that, distant dreams. The silence in his room often echoed his own internal linguistic paralysis. He longed to express himself, to share his thoughts, but the words seemed trapped behind an invisible barrier. This profound desire, however, was also the seed of his eventual transformation. He realized that a drastic change in his approach was absolutely necessary if he ever truly wanted to break free. One quiet afternoon, scrolling through endless online forums, a simple phrase caught his eye. Listen and practice. It wasn't groundbreaking, but the emphasis resonated deeply. He had always focused on grammar books and vocabulary lists, neglecting the immersive power of sound. This small revelation began to shift his entire perspective on language acquisition dramatically. Leo understood that true fluency wasn't just about knowing words. It was about internalizing rhythms, intonation, and natural speech patterns. He committed to making listening his primary initial focus. This new resolution felt like a tiny flicker of hope in the vast darkness of his past frustrations. It offered a clear, actionable path forward, unlike his previous aimless attempts. His journey truly began by figuring out how to improve your listening skills. He started small, avoiding overwhelming content. Short, simple podcasts designed for learners became his daily companions. He didn't focus on understanding every single word, but rather on grasping the general idea, the flow, and the melody of the English language. This was a crucial shift. Mornings were dedicated to listening to news podcasts, even if he caught only snippets of information. During his commute, he'd switch to engaging interviews, trying to follow the speaker's arguments. He repeated phrases in his head, mimicking the pronunciation he heard. This consistent exposure slowly started to make the once alien sounds feel remarkably familiar. Gradually, he progressed to watching short British comedies with subtitles. The humor sometimes escaped him, but the natural dialogue provided invaluable insight into everyday conversations. He paid close attention to slang and common expressions, noticing how native speakers effortlessly strung words together. His ears were becoming finely tuned instruments, slowly but surely. The sheer volume of input transformed his brain's capacity to process spoken English. Where once there was a jumble of sounds, now distinct words and phrases began to emerge. He discovered that active listening wasn't passive absorption. It required focus and consistent effort. This consistent engagement became the bedrock of his English learning journey. As his listening comprehension improved, a new desire emerged: to understand narratives more deeply. This led him naturally to English story reading. He began with simplified readers, then moved on to classic tales, reading along with audio versions. This dual approach significantly reinforced his vocabulary and sentence structure understanding. Reading stories opened up a new world of descriptive language and cultural context. He noticed how emotions were conveyed through words, how characters developed, and how plots unfolded. Each page turned was not just about learning English. It was about experiencing captivating narratives that enriched his overall understanding of the world. He found a particular joy in reading short stories, allowing him to complete a narrative arc quickly and feel a sense of accomplishment. This sustained motivation was vital. He'd reread passages, focusing on intonation if he had the audio, truly dissecting the language rather than just skimming for meaning. This deep dive was incredibly beneficial. The combination of listen and practice through stories became a powerful synergy. He would listen to a chapter, then read it, then listen again. This repetitive exposure solidified new vocabulary and grammatical structures in his long-term memory. His confidence in understanding complex sentences grew exponentially with each passing week. With a solid foundation in listening and reading, the next formidable challenge loomed: speaking. Leo knew he had to start talking at home before facing anyone else. He began by talking to himself in the mirror, describing his day, narrating simple actions, and even inventing short dialogues between imaginary characters. Initially, his voice sounded awkward, hesitant, and entirely unfamiliar speaking English. He stumbled over simple words, grappling with pronunciation. Yet he persevered, reminding himself that everyone starts somewhere. The living room became his private language laboratory, a safe space for uninhibited experimentation and endless attempts at fluency. He used a simple trick, thinking aloud in English. Whether he was making breakfast or tidying his room, he'd vocalize his thoughts. "I am pouring coffee now. It's hot. I need milk." This constant internal and external monologue started to build muscle memory for his tongue and lips, making the act of speaking more natural. Recording himself speaking became an invaluable tool for English talking practice. He would record short monologues, then listen back, cringing at first, but then identifying areas for improvement. It was a tough but honest mirror reflecting his progress, highlighting phonetic errors and grammatical slips that he needed to correct. The process of self-correction was enlightening. He learned to identify his own recurring mistakes without external feedback, making him a more independent learner. This self-awareness was crucial for sustained growth. He understood that improvement wasn't about being perfect immediately, but about continuous incremental refinement over time. After weeks of solitary practice, a newfound courage stirred within him. He was ready for a bigger challenge. How to practice English effectively meant stepping out of his comfort zone, even if it was just digitally. He signed up for an online language exchange platform, seeking out native English speakers for conversations. His first video call was nerve-wracking. His palms were sweaty and his mind went blank. He stammered through introductions, feeling utterly embarrassed. But the person on the other end was patient and encouraging, understanding his struggle. This initial awkwardness, while difficult, was a necessary rite of passage towards fluency. He learned that it wasn't about perfection but about communication. Making mistakes was an integral part of the learning process, not a sign of failure. Each conversation, no matter how brief or imperfect, built his confidence incrementally. He was finally how to improve your English in real time. Through genuine human interaction. He sought out people who were passionate about learning languages themselves, creating a supportive community. They shared tips, celebrated small victories, and provided constructive feedback. This network of like-minded individuals became an essential part of his journey, showing him that he was not alone in his pursuit of linguistic mastery. During these conversations, he consciously tried to implement new vocabulary and grammatical structures he had learned from his reading and listening. It was an active application of theoretical knowledge, solidifying it through practical use. The connection between input and output became clearer, making the learning process more holistic. One day, Leo decided to refine his accent. He had always admired the clarity and distinctiveness of British pronunciation. The phrase "let's talk in British English" became his new mantra. He started watching more BBC shows, listening intently to the various regional accents, focusing particularly on received pronunciation. He immersed himself in British culture through documentaries, period dramas, and even cooking shows. He paid attention to the subtle nuances of intonation, the way certain words were stressed, and the common idiomatic expressions unique to British speech. This targeted immersion added another layer of depth to his learning. He found a language partner who was a native British English speaker, providing invaluable real-time feedback. She corrected his vowel sounds, guided him on syllable stress, and explained colloquialisms with patience and good humor. This personalized coaching accelerated his progress significantly in a very short period. Practicing "let's talk in British English" wasn't just about the accent. It was also about understanding cultural references and humor. He learned about different social conventions and conversational etiquette, making his interactions more natural and authentic. This deeper cultural understanding enriched his overall language experience immensely. Leo realized that how to learn English was a multifaceted journey, requiring continuous adaptation and varied approaches. There wasn't one magical solution, but a combination of consistent effort across different skill areas. He embraced the idea of lifelong learning, knowing that fluency was a dynamic process, not a fixed endpoint. He made it a habit to constantly question how to practice English more effectively. He experimented with different apps, joined online discussion groups, and even started a small English-speaking book club with local learners. His proactive approach ensured that his confidence soared. He no longer dreaded social situations where English might be spoken. Instead, he actively sought them out, eager to engage in conversations and test his growing abilities. The fear that once paralyzed him had transformed into an excited anticipation of new linguistic challenges and opportunities. The initial struggle to take first step for talking now felt like a distant memory. He reflected on the shy, hesitant person he once was, marveling at how far he had come. This transformation wasn't sudden but a result of countless small, persistent efforts, each building upon the last with remarkable consistency. He often shared his journey, emphasizing the critical role of listen and practice. He told new learners not to underestimate the power of consistent exposure and active engagement with authentic materials. This foundational advice, he believed, was the true secret to unlocking one's linguistic potential and progress. Leo became an advocate for English story reading, highlighting how it provides context and natural language exposure beyond isolated vocabulary words. He explained that stories make learning enjoyable and memorable, embedding language in compelling narratives rather than dry rulebooks. This made the process much more engaging. He encouraged everyone to embrace English talking practice from day one, even if it meant making mistakes. He believed that the act of speaking, however imperfect, was the ultimate test and reinforcement of learning. It forces the brain to retrieve and produce language actively, solidifying knowledge effectively. For those struggling, he'd patiently explain how to practice English by breaking it down into manageable steps. Start with small goals, celebrate minor achievements, and maintain consistency. He stressed that patience was paramount, as fluency rarely happened overnight, requiring sustained dedication and effort. He also stressed the importance of knowing how to improve your English holistically, not just focusing on one area. Grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, listening, and speaking all contribute to overall fluency. A balanced approach ensures comprehensive development and avoids creating significant linguistic gaps. Start talking at home, he would advise, as a safe, low-pressure environment to build initial confidence and muscle memory. This private practice, he insisted, was a crucial bridge before venturing into public conversations, preparing one for the inevitable challenges of real-time communication. When discussing accents, he enthusiastically promoted, "Let's talk in British English," as a fascinating journey into linguistic diversity. He explained the richness of its various dialects and the cultural insights gained from exploring them. It added a layer of cultural immersion to his language studies. His personal philosophy on how to learn English evolved into a simple yet profound understanding. Consistency trumps intensity. Short, daily sessions were far more effective than sporadic marathon study periods. This consistent engagement fostered gradual but undeniable progress over time. And for listening, he emphasized that how to improve your listening skills was foundational. If you can't understand, you can't respond. Active listening training, distinguishing sounds, and understanding context were non-negotiable steps. This formed the bedrock of all subsequent language acquisition. Leo's life had undeniably changed. He could now confidently engage in complex discussions, share his opinions, and connect with people from diverse backgrounds. The world had literally opened up to him, all because he decided to conquer his fear of speaking. His voice now carried weight and clarity. He often mused on the critical turning point, the moment he decided to stop merely studying and truly listen and practice. It was the shift from passive consumption to active engagement that unlocked his potential and propelled his English learning journey forward with incredible momentum and speed. His love for English story reading deepened, as it provided not just language input, but also cultural enrichment. He found himself engrossed in tales from across the British Isles, understanding the subtle humor and historical references that were once completely lost on him. The awkwardness of initial English talking practice transformed into genuine enjoyment. He relished the challenge of expressing nuanced ideas, finding the right words, and participating in lively debates. Every conversation became an opportunity for further refinement and growth, a rewarding experience. He realized that how to practice English wasn't a chore, but an adventure. Each new word learned, each correct pronunciation, each smooth conversation was a small victory, a testament to his dedication. This mindset shift was crucial for long-term motivation and sustained effort. His journey was a living testament to how to improve your English through perseverance and a multifaceted approach. He had built his fluency brick by brick, patiently and consistently. There were no shortcuts, only diligent effort and smart strategies applied daily. The start talking at home phase, though seemingly small, had laid the essential groundwork for his confidence. It was the safe rehearsal stage, where he could make mistakes without judgment, building the muscle memory necessary for real-world interactions and public speaking. His targeted efforts to "Let's talk in British English" gave his fluency a distinct flavor and authenticity. It was a conscious choice to specialize, deepening his understanding of a specific linguistic and cultural sphere. This specialization made his English unique. Leo now often gave advice on how to learn English, always stressing the importance of finding joy in the process. He believed that genuine interest and curiosity were the most powerful motivators, turning what could be an arduous task into a rewarding pursuit. And he endlessly advocated for mastering how to improve your listening skills, recognizing it as the gateway to comprehension and subsequent verbal fluency. Without understanding, meaningful communication is impossible. It was the first domino in his chain of linguistic breakthroughs. His journey from being a silent observer to a confident communicator was complete. He had embraced every step, every challenge, every small victory. His voice, once hesitant, now carried the weight of experience and the joy of genuine connection. Leo continued to learn, understanding that language acquisition is an ongoing process. There was always a new idiom, a different accent, or a deeper cultural nuance to explore. His passion for English remained undimmed, driving his continuous pursuit of mastery. He realized that the first step for talking was not just about uttering words, but about overcoming the internal barriers of fear and self-doubt. It was a psychological hurdle more than a linguistic one, and once cleared, the path forward became clear. Through consistent listen and practice, he transformed abstract sounds into meaningful communication tools. His ears, once overwhelmed, now effortlessly process complex sentences, allowing for smooth, natural conversations with anyone he encountered. His commitment to English story reading enriched his vocabulary and comprehension, making his speech more articulate and nuanced. He could now draw upon a vast reservoir of expressions, making his conversations richer and more engaging for all involved. Leo's transformation was a testament to dedication. He proved that anyone, regardless of their starting point, can master English by patiently applying the right strategies. His story became an inspiration, showing others the path to linguistic freedom and global connection.